So we're switching on this 04 Forester from the factory seats to these other Forester seats from I think an 03 or an 02. Not 100% sure. These are completely manual, non-heated, but they do have the built-in airbags, and those do not. Though that one has heated elements, and this one will have heated elements and is electric. So I'm going to show you some of the things you have to do. Here's our donor driver seat. And the cable harness, the only cables we're interested in for the electric operation is the white with green stripe, which is positive, and black, which is negative. And that'll allow operation of the seat forward, back, up, down. Amp draw, I'm finding without a passenger in it at least, we're not going above 5 amps, so you don't need a whole lot for wiring. Everything else here I believe is related to the heated seats and possibly an occupancy sensor, but again, my 04 doesn't have that. It doesn't beep at you if you don't wear a seatbelt. So yeah, so we're just gonna wire this up once we get the seat mounted. Proof of concept here, we've got our positive lead on green and white, negative lead on black. I've got it hooked up to a little cheap power supply, 14.4 volts. It is limited to putting out 5.2 amps. I did hit overcurrent protection when the motors hit their limit, which means it's probably going to draw more than 5.2 amps, especially in normal operation, even with with just the driver in the seat. But sitting here on the ground, if we enable our output, if I manipulate the controls here, we got forward and back. We got our up and down lead screws, and you can see some of the current draw. So here's the limit, and it's actually limiting it to 5.2 amps. But here it is in the opposite direction. So that pulls almost 5 amps even when it's not maxed out, and then it maxes out. And then forward and back only uses about 2 amps with no driver, and then when it hits its limit, it current limits as well. So you're not going to need anything much thicker gauge than this, which I believe is 14 gauge. I'm actually going to run a power wire under the seat and hopefully hook up a subwoofer and run this off of that same power. I haven't toned or identified these guys, but they're all for heated seats, and I believe an occupancy sensor, which we're not using. The passenger seat that matches this one, it does not have the electric motors. It does have the heated seats though. So it has this harness with this connector. I just took it off so it's not dangling. But you could wire that in with a relay, provided that you size your wiring and fuse it appropriately. The other consideration is that this car was configured with seats with airbags, where these do not have airbags, and all you need is a cheap resistor to bypass that, which I'll demonstrate later. All right, those seats are held in by 4 12 millimeter hex bolts. So we just zip those out. With those out, you're gonna slide the seat all the way forward and move to the back side. The rear mounts are the same, 2 14 millimeter bolts, one here. One's gonna be under a trim piece. These just kind of pull and snap off. So we'll pop these out and remove the seat. I'll show you what we have to disconnect here on my 04 2.5X at least. All right, we unbolted the front seat, tipped it backward. The driver's seat's got an airbag connection, as well as I believe this is a seat belt fucking whatever. We'll just unclip these. This one's definitely a 2-person job, but you pull back on the green tab all the way, fiddle with it until it comes out. Obviously you're pushing down on this yellow bit right here. And then the seatbelt sensor thing, don't mind this. I don't know what the fuck this is, I hadn't seen it. Obviously somebody hacked something in at some point. And then the seatbelt sensor is just push up on the bottom while doing that. And it should, there we go. Seat's disconnected and ready to remove. What you're left with on the driver's side is the seatbelt chime, indicator, connector, whatever. And because I don't know if it uses that as an occupancy sensor or not. And then the airbag trigger slash whatever module connector. Again, this car has airbags and the new seat will not. So you're going to notice this connector looks very similar to one on the other seat. We'll move over there now. All right, so since we have a connector in the car already that looks just like this, and we'll go in here, we don't need this to be in the harness in this fancier seat. So it's the brown and black wires, and we should be able to just yank them out of here. Oh yeah, there we go. So we'll plug the car connector straight into here. We're gonna add a resistor on the car connector's airbag connection, and then we're gonna wire these two up to move the seat. These are the conductors for the heated seats. I have no information on these as of now. Wait till winter when my lady makes me do it. Seat is ready to install. I did go ahead and crimp on, these are about 14 gauge, so I went ahead and crimped on connectors for them to connect to my positive and negative leads. You'll notice I did them in opposite genders, and that's so if the car side comes apart, we don't potentially have a hot spade connector flopping around that could short out or even touch the ground on the car side or any other component of the frame and start a fire or melt wires or at least pop a fuse. So this is ready, but we've got to get the car ready for the airbag bypass. Since we're about to modify the airbag system, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my negative terminal and lose that nut forever. And then we'll give it a while to discharge just to be safe. Again, I'm not sure if these are occupancy sensors. I know that they have to at least be able to trigger the airbag in the seat. So since we're going to cut them, we're going to be extra safe. And I guess I'm going to find a new nut for that. So for the driver harness, what I've done, I'm super paranoid about airbag systems. So in case I want to reverse this mod, I want to leave plenty of length here so I can solder back together. So I went ahead, peeled the tape back and forth. I cut the plastic loom. I'm going to snip one wire about here. Again, we could put the resistor anywhere in this loom, which is probably what I'm going to do to protect it. So we're going to snip one wire here. The idea is our connector will stay viable in the future. Oh my God, these snips suck. Whatever, the idea is I'm going to snip one there and then I'm going to snip the other up here. There we go. There we are. So later we can reintegrate this if we'd like. So these are going to be our two wires. All right, I went ahead and applied flux and tinned all of our wires. And I went ahead and soldered one end of the resistor on. So now I'm going to slip a large piece of 3:1 heat shrink right over the end there, shrink that down, fold this over, solder it to this connection. That will also have a small piece of heat shrink, and then I'm going to put a piece of heat shrink over the entire bundle. And there's my resistor soldered into the circuit. Heat shrinks, we're probably going a little extra here, but I'm going to put one piece over the end. Hopefully, it's only a 1 watt resistor. Hopefully that doesn't overheat it, but I don't want this exposed either, so we'll give it a try. If it burns out and the ABS light comes on, we'll know. And that's our completed bypass resistor installed and heat shrunk. So this will connect to the new seat. That'll connect to nothing. And then we've just got to wire in the positive and negative for the power, the motors. The other option is just to throw a resistor into the connector. I'll show you that on the passenger side. Here on the passenger side, same connector. You can see it's just 2 wires, 2 terminals. For the past 10,000 miles or so, it's a proof of concept, I was actually running with the resistor just jammed into the terminals. So you can see those 2 little holes. I just stuck one leg in one and one leg in the other. Now that I've proven that that works, I'm gonna make it more permanent, just like the driver's side. All right, so I used an MRBF fuse holder with a 60 amp fuse in combination with 105 Celsius rated marine grade Anchor wiring. Did I say 6 gauge? It's 6 gauge if I didn't. And I really like this setup. This cable can support, I want to say we're closer to like 80, 90 amps in an engine compartment per the ABYC. So this fuse will blow before the wire melts down no matter what. So I'm happy with that. I routed it along the electrical harness. My one mistake was when I came through the, looks like clutch slave cylinder grommet, I came up and over the accelerator or the cruise control module, whichever it is, rather than going down here and immediately joining up and zip tying to the rest of the electrical harness. But it's good enough for the girls we date. So we've got a little crossover here, and that's going to drive me crazy in the long run, but I am happy with that. Well, that's no good. So really, you could just tuck your power cable underneath the trim here, but I decided I wanted to pull the dash a little and figure out what's going on. Someone hacked away at this lower panel, and then what really piqued my interest was that hanging out there. Now this doesn't come off, so I didn't want to, at least not without removing another section. I didn't want to fuck with that, but I think I lucked out here. There's one end, there's the other end, and it looked like it was going here. I don't know, it might have been for a stereo, but there was a really old school stereo in here when I got it, so I don't think it's like one that plays DVDs. It definitely didn't play DVDs or anything where it would require you to connect to the ground, but should be able to, yep. Just yank that out, and we're gonna run our power cable down. And we caught the mouse nest just in time. And this is what we ended up with. I ran the positive in. I put in a little six terminal fuse block here, just so I could add things in the future. I want to hardwire in my 100-watt inverter just to run a laptop on the road. This is primarily a work vehicle, and I drive a lot for work. So you can see I've got 14 gauge here going out that connects to the seat motor, and then a larger, I don't know, 10 gauge going under the seat for a powered subwoofer. I actually just took that out because I'm going to swap to another model, and then I'm going to clean up my wiring and loom it there. But yeah, you could really just, you know, if you just wanted to run power to the seat or the seats, this one, in this case, it's just the one power seat, you really could get away with probably a wire this gauge. I have a 15 amp fuse on the run to the seat. For the ground, I actually came out here, ground off the paint underneath and on top and behind the seat rail here. So yeah, I'm just going to throw some loom around this. Clean all this stuff up with the amp, and I have been enjoying the seats. Haven't had any issues. One last thing I wanted to note, I did look into the heated elements, and that's one reason I did the 6 position fuse block and the large gauge wire. As you can see, we've got up, down, back, forward. It's been working just fine. The seated, if you look at the wiring earlier in the video, there are 3 wires left in that bundle. One is the ground for the heating elements, and the other 2 power each heating element. One is low, one is high. I haven't done any testing on that, but you can look at the wiring diagrams, and you can wire up a relay and even get factory switches to put there if you want. But I don't know that I'm going to bother.